Hey everybody, it's InnoVision, and SteamOS 3.8 stable has just landed. We've been waiting a whole year for this release, and it brings in a list of improvements and features for various hardware, including the Steam Machine and several non-Steam Deck gaming handhelds. What separates this video from others that you'll see is this is not just some sugar-coated horse and pony show. We're gonna go over real-world gameplay scenarios, and we're gonna showcase these three devices that I have here: my Legion Go 2, my ROG Ally, and my original Legion Go. I'll even be sharing things that work well and some of the things that I've noticed that still could be improved. Grab you something to snack on, something to sip on, because there's a lot to unpack here. Let's get started. First up is the Legion Go 2. Now, one thing that has really annoyed me during the beta is this constant hissing sound from my fan. Even when I'm just sitting in game mode UI, the fan's spinning and the temperatures are rising for no apparent reason. And in previous videos, I even called out that I believed that the CPU and GPU power governor was not yet optimized. Well, there's been some big improvements here, and you'll see in our gameplay in just a little bit. All right, so we've got our Legion Go 2 with the latest version of SteamOS Stable 3.8.10. And we're just gonna go into settings real quick and take a peek. And you can see we're on the stable branch. We're on SteamOS Hollow, Deck variant 3.8.10. And you can see we're on Valve's latest Linux Neptune kernel, along with the latest version of AMD Radeon driver. Previously, this was only available on main update channel for quite some time. And then over the last few months, it's become available on the beta channel. But now we're here with the full release. All right, let's take a look at Spider-Man Miles Morales on the Legion Go 2. I haven't heavily optimized this game. I'm just looking for a set of settings that gets me to about 60 FPS during normal gameplay and still looks visually appealing. And so I'm keeping the full resolution of the Legion Go 2 panel. I've got HDR enabled. I'm using the defaults in terms of the HDR calibration. I'm not using frame gen, and I'm using the Insomniac Games upscaling method with the quality preset. And I've got dynamic resolution scaling disabled. As I'm playing the game, let's not pay attention to the fact that I'm still learning the controls here, but let's pay more attention to how the game looks and feels. As Spider-Man is swinging across the rooftops, we seem to be hovering around the high 60 FPS range. And occasionally, it'll dip into the high 50 FPS range. Meanwhile, my CPU and GPU temperatures are staying well below 60 degrees Celsius. Generally, the game is very responsive, but I wonder if we can get just a little bit more performance out of it. In just a little bit, we'll come back to the game and see how it runs with the performance TDP settings. From what I see, everything is working here except for the native brightness slider. So I have a workaround that we've got installed. I've got the ability to control the brightness natively here. We still want an official implementation that implements HDR, so that way game mode can actually be rendered in HDR. I've actually put together a tool that implements the same workaround that the Bazi OS developers implemented. I'll leave a link in the description to the tool that I made for the community that actually installs that workaround for you. You can see here HDR is enabled with no problem in the game. And what I want to do is try one of the different performance profiles. You can see here, this UI is busted. It's not anything that affects the usability of the system, but it just looks unpolished. But let's go ahead and switch to our performance profile. And you can see before our temperatures were hovering less than 60 degrees Celsius, both in terms of our GPU and CPU temperature. Let's see what happens after a couple minutes playing with the performance. This is surprisingly good. I'm shocked. We're still below 60 degrees Celsius, and we're using the performance profile, and we're staying above 60 FPS. Now, this is impressive. Before this latest stable version of SteamOS, when using the performance TDP settings, my fan would be spinning like crazy and be going very loud. My Legion Go 2 is still running quite cool, and even better, it's quiet. And it looks like going to the performance TDP profile, we've got anywhere between a 15 to 20 FPS performance boost. During the SteamOS beta, one of the most annoying things was the consistent fan hissing. Even while I was in game mode UI and I wouldn't even be playing anything, and my fan would just be hissing at me. At this point, it's safe to say that Valve has optimized the CPU and GPU power governor settings for the Legion Go 2, and I am so thankful for this. It's unbelievable that I can play with the performance TDP profile and I barely hear any fan and my console is running very cool. Excellent work here. Next up, we have our original Legion Go. This console picked up SteamOS support back in May of 2025. Some things like RGB lighting was still not working unless you had third-party plugins. Now you can tune your RGB lighting settings natively in SteamOS, and you don't need any additional plugins. All TDP settings are also working. All right, so I've got my OG Legion Go here. I've left it in sleep mode for the last 3 or 4 hours, and I'm coming back to it. And when I put it to sleep, it was at around 80% charge. And so we've had some folks in the community asking, how much battery are we losing when we're in sleep mode? And it looks like over the course of a 4-hour period, we've lost about 2% battery life. I think that's pretty typical. What's everyone else's experience out there been? Drop a comment, let me know what you've been seeing. And here we're on the latest version of SteamOS Stable. One of the fixes they've added for all the non-deck gaming handhelds that have RGB lighting in their controllers is the ability to customize it. If you go under your settings and under customization, you'll just toggle this enable joystick lights, and then you can pick between some of these presets, and then you can tweak your brightness and the speed at which the patterns cycle, for example, in the rainbow setting. And so it doesn't matter which gaming handheld you're on, it's always under the customization menu if your handheld supports it. All right, let's take a look at Spider-Man Miles Morales on our Legion Go. So in terms of our settings, I like to use 1280 by 800, which is a quarter of the resolution of the whole panel, because the Legion Go has a higher resolution display than all the other handhelds. If we pick 1280 by 800, we're going to be using a 2x reduction in both the X and Y dimensions of the image. So we've reduced our picture size by 4x. And so all these settings are fine. I'm going to change this to the Insomniac Games upscaler. I'm going to disable dynamic resolution scaling, and we're going to go for quality. So the other thing that we need to do to take advantage of integer scaling is to open our Steam Quick Access menu and go under this lightning bolt icon. And under scaling mode, we want to pick integer. And in terms of which scaling filter you use, you can use whichever one you like. If you use the sharp filter, we're effectively using FSR1 as the upscaler. And I'm just going to use a sharpness of 3. So we're going to take a look at gameplay using the balanced TDP settings, which I'm already running at this point in time. And then I'll crank it up to performance and just see how it goes. And so we can see right now we're hovering, about the mid 40 FPS range. Our temperature looks good. We're under 60 degrees Celsius on both the CPU and GPU. But overall, this is playing very smooth. I'm not seeing a lot of dips in my frame rate. I'm very happy with this. And it looks beautiful. Unfortunately, it doesn't come through as well on the camera here, but it looks great. And this brings in a laundry list of updates. We're updated to the latest version of the Arch Linux base. We now can wake our device using an external controller. And in terms of display performance, there's been a whole slew of updates related to HDMI and variable refresh rate. And then this is where things are super exciting for me. We've got a ton of features that have been added for non-Steam Deck handhelds. So let's crank up our TDP and see how it goes. So I'm going to come over here, and then we're going to pick performance. Immediately we can see our temperatures have gone up to almost 70 degrees Celsius. We got a little bit of fan noise, but overall it still doesn't seem like it's spinning at full speed. So, as long as we stay below 75 degrees Celsius, I'm pretty happy with this, being that's the performance profile. This seems to be pretty good. The colors definitely don't come through as nicely as they do like when we're recording an OLED screen, but still looks great. Last but not least, I've got my ROG Ally with the Z1 Extreme APU. Last year, this device did not have custom TDP profiles. Now we've got low, balanced, and performance TDP settings. But one thing that's left to be desired is the ability to use a custom TDP setting. Also, RGB lighting is still not working natively on this device. In just a little bit, I'll be sharing some gameplay and the plugins I'm using to tune some of these things. All right, let's take a look at our ROG Ally with the Z1 Extreme APU running the latest version of SteamOS Stable. Let's take a look at customization. So we don't have RGB lighting control here. That's one thing I want to call out. In order to set up RGB lighting, we're having to use a third-party plugin. We're using this HueSync Deculoader plugin. And it looks like I need to update my Deculoader plugins. Let's take a look at Spider-Man Miles Morales on the ROG Ally. So I have the Z1 Extreme based APU here. I just want to show that we're using the balanced TDP settings as well. So let's go into our settings and tweak things a little bit. So I'm going to run at the full resolution of the ROG Ally display. I'm going to leave FrameGen disabled. I want to use the Insomniac Games upscaler, and I want to disable dynamic resolution scaling. And I'll use the quality upscaling presets. That all looks good. Let's go ahead and apply our settings, and let's try to continue our game. Early on, the frame rate was kind of all over the place. We're seeing dips into the mid 40s, but generally speaking, it wants to stay above 55. And again, this is with our balanced TDP settings. And it seems, in general, when playing this game, when you're in the rooftop and you have a lot of models at the distance, you can see things start kind of bringing your frame rate down. When we're down on the street, it seems like we have higher FPS on some of the other consoles. Here, we're kind of bouncing all over the place between high 30s and low 40s. So we're going to switch over to our desktop. I'm going to reinstall Deculoader plugins. I have it downloaded from a previous session. This is the latest one, and I'm going to go ahead and launch it. And you'll type in your password. And once you've typed in your password, we can update to the latest version of the release right here. So I'm going to update to latest release since I'm running SteamOS stable. And in theory, this should allow me to preserve the plugins I already have installed so I don't have to reinstall everything. All right, so let's head back over to game mode and see how it goes. If we go into here, we have everything we need for RGB lighting control. And so that's what I'm using at the moment. There's another really neat plugin that I have a video for called Power Control. It allows you to further customize your TDP settings as well as set custom fan curves on ROG Ally devices. This is an extremely useful tool. I'll leave a link to that video in the description of this video. So let's see what happens if we crank it up to our performance TDP settings. Mind you, we didn't go above 60 degrees Celsius at balanced. And so now we're hugging 60 FPS with some dips to the mid 40s. But this feels responsive. It's playing well. I don't feel that jerkiness you would feel when your frame rate dips. I think a lot of that has to do with the variable refresh rate on this display. So back at the rooftops here, we're at about 80 degrees Celsius on our GPU. Our CPU staying below 80. And we're staying at around 80 FPS. So it's definitely an improvement with the higher TDP settings. Here it's a little bit busier, so we're kind of dipping into the 60 FPS. Another option we have is to actually use the full resolution of the display and change our upscale quality preset to balanced. See if that helps. Generally speaking, this looks better than 720p, and it's slightly better performing than the 1080p with the high quality preset. So I think if I were playing this game on this device, these might be the settings I'd be using at this point. While there's definitely more work to do, SteamOS has come a long way since last year. The features I'm most thrilled about is the improved power governor on the Legion Go 2. And I imagine whatever improvements they made on the Legion Go 2 with the Z2 Extreme APU likely carries through to other gaming handhelds that use the Z2 Extreme. For example, the Xbox Ally. How many of you out there have the Xbox Ally and have noticed these improvements? Drop a comment, let me know. What other things are you experiencing that are not working? I've heard rumblings in the community that gyro stopped working on the original Legion Go. I haven't had a chance to test it extensively yet. Drop a comment, let me know. Let's go over the list of everything together. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all of our channel members. Your support is allowing us to grow an amazing community where we can teach each other things about gaming devices and have fun while doing it. And I also want to let you know we've got a community Discord. That's where all the cool cats hang out and some of the deeper discussions take place. Until next time, hit that like button and subscribe. That way you don't miss all the amazing tech, toys, and gaming tips we've got coming down the pipeline.